26 February 2023, and today we're going to look at the second video that we're going to be making about the elections which are going to be held in August 2023. That is the Zimbabwe general elections, which everyone has been awaiting. Every Zimbabwean has been awaiting this election, which they hope will bring change to their circumstances. So this election is very, very closely watched by every Zimbabwean. And this week, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission chairperson Priscilla Chigumba is reported to have openly clashed with the Zimbabwe president Mnangagwa at State House. And there are two specific issues that they clashed over, if you can call it a clash, because I don't think it's possible to clash with President Mnangagwa. He's very powerful, and Chigumba, the only thing she can do is to stand her ground, and if she doesn't get away, probably step down or get fired, because obviously she's appointed by President Mnangagwa and her term is coming to an end. In fact, I believe this is her last year in office. So the main issue here is to do with the Delimitation Commission report. And this report is very important. As I mentioned yesterday, the report has resulted in ZANU-PF losing a number of constituencies even before the elections in their key strongholds, the rural strongholds, due to low voter turnout or voter registration. The seats, the delimitation, and the characteristics of the population is such that there are now more parliamentary seats and constituencies in urban areas. And this has upset the balance in favor of the CCC of Nelson Chamisa, so that it looks like the delimitation is actually almost giving away votes and seats and parliamentary seats to Nelson Chamisa's CCC. And you saw that President Mnangagwa delayed to gazette the final delimitation report. And there is a newspaper called ZimLive, which I believe is owned by the CIO, the Central Intelligence Organization, or which was founded by the Central Intelligence Organization. And in their report this week, they mentioned that Chigumba, when she went to State House on Monday, she made the demand that President Mnangagwa must gazette the delimitation report, the final delimitation report that she had presented to him on the 3rd of February, without any changes, without any alterations. So there had been input which was given by President Mnangagwa, which obviously she considered during the initial report, the draft that she gave to President Mnangagwa. She made changes and then gave him a final report. But apparently those changes were not enough for President Mnangagwa, and he wanted more changes. And Chigumba then said she's not going to make those changes. She refused to make the changes. And according to the newspaper, President Mnangagwa then remarked something along the lines of, we are no longer together, or we are no longer on the same page, something like that. So there's obviously some resistance from Priscilla Chigumba from being pushed around. And there can only be one reason where she would have the power to do that. And that is if she has someone very close or very powerful backing her. And the newspaper did give a hint of who that is, who is backing Chigumba. And they say that there is a rift within the presidium regarding this issue of delimitation because of the third term, a possible third term for President Mnangagwa. And I don't believe that President Mnangagwa would seek a third term, but according to this newspaper, President Mnangagwa would prefer or would want to seek a third term using the two-thirds majority in parliament to make changes to the constitution so that he be allowed to contest for a third term. And the guys who want to come in, they obviously don't want that to happen. And they would want ZANU-PF not to have a two-thirds majority in parliament. That is the reason that was given here. So they are backing Chigumba, President Chigumba, the ZEC chairperson, in her defiance of Mnangagwa, or President Mnangagwa's directive to make changes to the delimitation report. That is what the newspaper says. I don't know if that is it or not, but if that was to happen, it means there is a serious problem in the presidium, and it means that President Mnangagwa may not be as powerful as we think, because there is no way that someone in the presidium can openly oppose their principle in that way. So I don't know whether that is true or not, but there seems to be a bit of truth in this, because the second point, so obviously let me go to the second point. The first point was that Chigumba wanted President Mnangagwa to gazette that particular final report, and she got away. The second is that there is a ZANU-PF member who has gone to the Constitutional Court to challenge the delimitation report. And this member of ZANU-PF is saying that the report that Chigumba produced does not reflect the discussions that were held with all the commissioners at ZEC. And it was only Chigumba and her deputy who came up with this report, and he wants that this report should be cancelled or should be revoked. So this guy is called Simukai Kiwa. The deputy is called Simukai Kiwa, the deputy of Chigumba, and the guy who is challenging, the ZANU-PF member who is challenging the delimitation report, is called Tonderai Chidawa. And then, to make the case even more interesting, in the court case, 7 commissioners within ZEC are said to be opposed to the delimitation report, and 2 of them, Catherine Mpofu and Shepard Manivi, have gone on and written affidavits in support of Chidawa, of ZANU-PF, to say that the delimitation report must be revoked, must be taken away, and the old delimitation that was there before must be used. The other commissioners who support Chidawa are Jasper Mangwana, Abiko Millicent Mohadi Ambrose, Jane Betu Njenga, Kudzai Shava, and Rosweta Murutare. So I'm stunned by this development, that members of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission would go to court against their own chairperson. So this is what the Zimbabwe Council of Churches was talking about this week. I listened to their Twitter space, and there were a lot of experts were saying there seemed to be a bit of dysfunction within the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission as things stand. There are now 2 factions, and we might end up with the Kenya situation that arose when commissioners then argued during the election, the announcement of the election results, those who support one side and the other ones who support the other side. And I do not know how this can be solved, but I'm sure that there is need to address this situation, because the names that have been mentioned here, which is to say CIO boss Isaac Moyo and Vice President Chiwenga, they support Chigumba and they're giving a backing. It is important to analyze what are the implications of having this situation where certain members of the ZANU-PF party are supporting one part of ZEC and the another part supporting another part of ZEC or another faction of ZEC. The coming in of factions within ZEC is worrying. It's worrying because it has been said in the past that it is not right to have family members of key ZANU-PF officials within ZEC. And if you pick up the names that are here, almost half of the people that are here are ZANU-PF, children of ZANU-PF or relatives of ZANU-PF members, key officials like the chairperson of ZANU-PF, the vice president of ZANU-PF, Mohadi, and Wampof, all these people, the ZEC commissioners are basically standing in the shoes of their parents or relatives who are in ZANU-PF. And this needs to be addressed. I don't know how it can be addressed for the sake of the credibility of the election. Because what will eventually happen is that when the outcome of this election is announced by Chigumba, and if there are then these big powerful people behind each side, we will end up seeing a war, or represent a war which has got a face of different ZEC commissioners, but actually representing different interests within ZANU-PF. This is what I'm seeing here. But the key issue is that the delimitation report has been gazetted, and Chigumba had to stand their ground. She didn't make changes. And then this brought about this issue of factions within ZANU-PF. The Constitutional Court case is supposed to be heard, I think it's on the 29th of March, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what happens. We'll be closely watching this case, and then we'll also be watching closely the case where ZEC has been asked, has been taken to court to provide the electronic voters roll. So very, very interesting cases. What will happen to Chigumba? She cannot get away with this. In my view, she will probably end up losing a job, and will probably end up with another commissioner or chairman of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. But she's obviously thinking about the future. What happens after the ZANU-PF government? If the ZANU-PF government loses, she's thinking about what she will do in terms of her own work internationally, in terms of her own work as a judge and the ethics. It's going to be very complicated, and I don't know what has happened between now and 2018 for Chigumba to take this stance, and for the commissioners to openly defy Chigumba. There is obviously a bigger picture, a bigger thing happening behind the scenes, and we'll soon know about it, especially when you see a CIO-backed newspaper publishing these stories. It's almost a giveaway that there is infighting and there is power games being played within ZANU-PF and within ZEC. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope I did justice to this topic. We'll be back again during the week with more developments.